It's absolutely awful. It'll be number 1 next week.
Well, we're here with another shiny new show. I'm jumping in for Simon. It's Ben here, and I'm joined, of course, by Mark. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm fine. I just need to know, have you been listening to that Lemonheads single that I put you onto last time we were together? Because I think it's a real
absolutely have, and I think the grayed out songs will be with us within the next couple of weeks. So next time I'm on, we'll be able to discuss the entire album for the few listeners that care about our Lemonheads relationship.
Yeah, he's got a kind of Johnny Cash thing going on now, though. It's like
really a sort of Cash
waits.
waits. Yeah, I like it. It adds a little character hit to him. I was actually reading an interview with him the other day, and they always ask him about drugs, and he was like, "Well, you know, I'm married now, and I'm slowing down. I still do this, that, and the third, but you know, I'm slowing down." and you know how like you read one article and it links to an old article. So I pulled out this other article when I finished reading it, and it was from nearly 20 years ago, and it was almost exactly the same question, and it was a different wife, but almost exactly the same answer. Well, I'm married now, and slowing down. Listen, before we get into Mark talking animatedly and excitedly about things, you've got a lot of stage directions, I've noticed, this week, Mark, in how you're supposed to talk about things and films. I wanted to start by thanking you and this show and this parish, because I took my family to the only cinema in London last week that was showing the Irish movie Christy. And
which is wonderful.
Was such a joyous experience. Oh my gosh. We came out of that cinema, and we've been talking about it ever since, just enjoying it, trying to recite the song from the final credits. I mean, when you reviewed it, I thought, definitely this is for me. But even knowing what you'd said about it, in the first 10 minutes, I was scared. Not that it would be bad, but that it was going to be really depressing. And it's almost like a rug pull,
but it's
right?
not.
No, it's the opposite.
Yeah, but it's
like, it could be the feel-good movie of the year. I loved it. So thank you.
I'm so glad, because I saw it in Berlin as part of this. They've got this generation strand, which is kind of, you know, new upcoming film, sort of younger audiences generally. And weirdly enough, as I was coming into Berlin, I'd stood in the queue to get through customs with one of the producers who I'd met and started talking to. And they said, "Oh, well, we've got this film, you know, you must come along and see it." And of course, that's always terrifying, because you think, well, what if it's not any good? And I sat there and I just thought it was just wonderful. And then I got in touch with her and said, "Look, love the film. And I'm not just saying that because we stood next to each other in the thing." And then she came and spoke to the good lady professor. Her indoors was there with all the students that she takes to Berlin for the film festival. And I just think it's such a joyous film, and I want everybody to see it. And I don't want anyone to go in thinking it's a downer, because it's the opposite. It's the
total opposite. And if you want to see, you know, youthful, the sort of next gen of young performers coming through, it's a great platform. The kids in it are just superb,
amazing, just amazing. Yeah.
Right then, what have we got coming up this week, Mark?
We've got another film which potentially sounds like it might be a downer, but it's in fact really life-affirming, which is I Swear. We have Plainclothes, which is an independent movie. There's so much stuff happening in the kind of independent movie sector at the moment that's interesting. And then on the big budget end, we have Tron Aries, or as it is now generally being referred to, Tron ARES. I don't know why, but Simon Paul wrote that in an email, and I find it impossible to get out of my head.
All right.
It's stuck.
And excitingly, I got to speak to the House of Dynamite director, Kathryn Bigelow, and one of the stars, Rebecca Ferguson. So you can hear that a little later on. And what's in take two?
Take two, we have also another independent film, Good Boy, which is a really, really low budget but inventive kind of horror mystery. And The Shadow's Edge, which is a Jackie Chan film which opened in UK cinemas last week. Again, you'd have to seek it out, but I think it's worth drawing your attention to.
Jackie's back. Plus all the other extra stuff, including Questions Schmestions, in which we answer the excellent question, do you have any foods or drinks that trigger a cinematic memory for you? It's kind of like is it Proust or Proust? Proustian question.
I think
Proustian
Proust.
question.
I think Proust.
Proustian question. There we go. Plus, we should remind you, full video episodes are now available on YouTube. So you can like us, you can rate us, you can subscribe us, you can comment as the good lady state school primary school teacher did herself on my studio. She said, because I was watching last week's episode on YouTube, and she walked into the living room. She said, "What's this? What's this show?" And I said, "This is the show I do." And she said, "Oh, it's on TV. It's on." And I said, "Well, this is YouTube, but on TV." She said, "Well, you need to get in your studio and sort it out. It's a mess in there. It's disgusting. I don't want that on YouTube." So thanks to her, I've neatened things up, and you can watch.
You've
us
now
in
got a
glorious
curated
Technicolor.
Background.
Yeah. Well, like I say, this is down to her. She said, get all the funny little things in your studio and stick them behind you. So there we go.
Yeah, you got Woody, you got Goonies stuff, you've got a Kermode and Mayo book in which I can only see my name.
Yeah, that was very specifically positioned, so you just get the Kermode.
Nicely done, Ben.
Yeah,
Nicely done.
There you go. There's all sorts back there. Right then. Also, this is really exciting, and I heard about this for the first time on last week's show. The Kermode and Mayo Christmas movie spectacular is back, and it's in central London on December 7th, right? And I'm gonna try and collar the redactor in chief and see if I can get myself and the missus a ticket, because I do not want to miss this.
Ben, you have to come along. As you said, December the 7th, 2:30 at the Prince Edward Theatre in the glittering West End of London.
Ooh, yeah, you're going to get all the best bits from the podcast right in front of your faces. Reviews of the week's newest releases, interviews, and of course, the very special, the festive Laughter Lift, the Christmas Cracker special of the Laughter Lift.
Which I can only apologise in advance.
Yeah.
Plus the return of our Christmas quiz, where the audience members will go head-to-head in a film buff battle for the ages, it says here.
And tip-top guests. That's
tip-top
exciting.
guests.
So, Sunday the 7th of December, 2:30 p.m. So we're doing, it's daytime. Tickets start at $27.50, which I think is a pretty good deal. It's not a Taylor Swift ticket. And the dedicated link you can find at Fane, that's fane.co.uk/Kermode-Mayo. There we go. All right. Emails. Who's this from? Yes. Okay. This is from Warren DaCosta, who says, "Dear Simon and Mark, a few weeks ago, you had a guest on promoting the Sailors Are Gay film festival in London. And as a result, I went along to the final screening." It's working, Mark. The What's On thing is working. People are hearing and going. Warren went to Corel, which was the final screening. It's a 1982 Rainer Werner Fassbinder film starring Brad Davis and Jeanne Moreau. And he says, "It turned out to be one of the most memorable cinema experiences I've had in a long time. The screening began with a fascinating introduction from a film expert who explained the background of Fassbinder, Brad Davis, and the remarkable convergence of their careers and lives at that moment, both men passing not long after the film's release. The talk also touched on the film's influence of Jean-Paul Gaultier. Honestly, without that context, I suspect I would have scoffed and dismissed it. The movie itself is gloriously bizarre, intentionally wooden acting, shoddy stage-like sets, and dialogue with one-liners so outrageous that I'll let you check out the Corel quotes on IMDb rather than repeat them here. My friends and I left the cinema asking, WTAF have we just watched? But on reflection, I always like adding the A, WT actual F. Have we just watched? But on reflection, I think it deserves a place as a true camp classic. Imagine the Rocky Horror Show colliding with Mummy Dearest. Wow. So thank you for shining a light on that festival. I'd never have gone otherwise. And it ended up being a strange, brilliant experience. I hope you'll feature more of those kinds of promotions in the future. Keep up the good work, Warren DaCosta. This is the beauty of this show, right? So I took the family to see Christy because of your review. Also, I went to see One Battle After Another.
Oh, fab.
At my local cinema, a little indie cinema called the Lexi. And as I was buying a beer at the bar, the bartender said, "Thank you so much for talking about the Lexi on the show." Wow. And everybody there, they all listen to you and Simon religiously every week. So it's like the connections that you guys make up and down the country and across the world, of course. Absolutely amazing. Right.
And I'd just like to point out, Ben, you're not just mentioning the Lexi again on the basis that you're going to get another free beer. That's nothing to do with it.
I should also stress
to be in your head.
I should also stress there was a part of me when I got that lovely compliment that I thought they'd go, "That's on the house, Mr. Smith." That didn't happen.
Oh, it wasn't. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought
that didn't happen. To be fair to the Lexi, it is a charity, so no freebies for me, and I'm happy that way. Right then, let's get this thing birdsong started, shall we?
Yes.
Correspondence at kermodeandmayo.com, by the way, for any more emails and thoughts and lovely things like Warren just sent us. But yeah, let's get this party started, Mark. What have we got?
On the subject of birdsong, leads us rather nicely into I Swear, which is a biopic of John Davidson, the Tourette syndrome campaigner. So it's written and directed by Kirk Jones. Kirk Jones came out of advertising, had a huge hit at the end of the 80s with Waking Ned, which incidentally was shot in the Isle of Man, in Craignish in the Isle of Man, very famously. Went on to direct Nanny McPhee, which I loved, some rom-com-y things, one of the Greek weddings. This is in a whole other league. So this is based on the true story of John Davidson, brilliantly played by Robert, I think, Mayo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So we meet him at the beginning of the film preparing to receive an MBE. I think he's at Hollywood Palace, and he's terrified of going into the room because he knows that he might say or do something inappropriate because he has Tourette's. He was the subject of a 1989 documentary, John's Not Mad, and then a couple of subsequent documentaries. So he became quite well and then became a campaigner. So the film then goes back to his childhood. Young Galashiels boy with a potentially promising career in football as a goalie. His dad's very proud of him. Then he starts developing these twitches, these tics. He starts spitting. He starts to say things inappropriately, often obscenities. Causes ructions at school, causes ructions at home. His dad walks out, leaves him at home with his mum, played in brilliantly long-suffering fashion by Shirley Henderson. So fast forward several years, now an adult, still living with his mum, who is befriended by Dottie, played by Maxine Peake, who takes him into her house, under her wing, and sort of offers him a new horizon. Here's a clip.
Sorry, everyone.
Right, John. If you're going to visit us more often, which, I hope you are, I need to speak to you about your language.
Aye, okay.
We have one rule in this house. And that's if you do anything you can't help, you never, ever have to apologise for it. If you're out in the street and, with people who don't understand you, then fine, apologise, whatever. But in this house, where we know you can't help it, where we know you don't mean it, well, it all means diddly squat. It's the apologise that drives me mad.
The brilliant Maxine Peake. So also Peter Molland as the caretaker of local community centre who's looking for someone to follow in his footsteps and perhaps offers employment to John, who needs something to lead him through things. So the film played in Toronto, and it's been getting rave reviews ever since, with particular plaudits for the performances. Simon Brew, who I'm a big fan of in film stories, said this was on the poster, it's on the trailer. He described this as a film that might just change someone's life, and I think he's absolutely right. John Davidson won an MBE for, quote, his efforts to increase understanding of the condition and helping families deal with it across the country. And as I said, he's become an ambassador for the understanding of Tourette's. And this film, on which he is an exec, is part of that process. When that first doc came out, John's Not Mad, he was a teenager. And apparently, although it's a very good documentary, it put him in a spotlight in a way that some people reacted to it with ridicule and laughter. That
doc was huge. I remember it. I had no idea until you said that in the beginning of this review that it was linked, that it was the same guy from the movie. That documentary, and your ridicule is right, because that was the year that I started, that September I started secondary school, and that doc came out. And it was a bit like seeing someone do an incredible football trick or something like that. Everyone in the playground was quoting him because we thought it was hilarious. Didn't know anything about Tourette's.
Precisely so. Now, so the interesting thing with this drama is that there is a lot of laughter in this film, but it's never laughing at somebody. It's to do with laughing with a situation. The condition, which I think is brilliantly portrayed on screen, it's a terrible burden. I mean, we see the suffering it causes. We see the isolation it causes. I mean, at one point, actually, it gets him hospitalized because he does something inappropriate in a bar, and the next thing, he's in hospital. But we also see behind the Tourette syndrome, we see this incredibly decent man who finally manages to find a non-judgmental environment and then passes on that act of kindness himself, because his life is transformed by people seeing beyond this kind of, the outer embodiment of the Tourette. I did an interview with Maxine Peake on stage earlier this week at the BFI, and this really weird thing happened. I started asking her a question about the film. I was trying to say the thing about what Simon Brew had said, it's a film that could change somebody's life. Because from my point of view, I mean, I didn't know anything about Tourette's really at all. And watching the film, I felt that my understanding of it was really increased. But also, it's a film about empathy. It's a film about understanding. All the great films are about empathy, about understanding somebody's situation. I started asking Maxine Peake this question. And I suddenly, in the middle of the question, I found myself crying. It was the weirdest thing. I felt really kind of like a mix of confused and embarrassed, but I sort of struggled through the question. I said, I'm sorry, can you just pick this up? Because I've kind of lost it a little bit.
Wow.
And then Maxine Peake started, this is a real thing that happened. And then Maxine Peake started answering the question, and she was going, oh, what are you like? And blah, 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 blah. And then about 5 minutes later on, she was answering a question about it, and she started doing the same thing.
Oh, wow.
And I think the reason is because the film, or even just a memory of the film, is so gets you in the feels so much because it's so humanistic. It's in the real sense of that. It is a drama with real three-dimensional people facing real three-dimensional problems and dealing with them in a way that is compassionate and empathetic, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I mean, bits of it are heartbreaking, bits of it are really painful to watch, and you really do get a sense of just how isolating this whole situation is. But you also get a sense of somebody overcoming tremendous odds to become the best version of themselves. And it's moving, it's funny, it's profound. And I do think Simon Brew is right. I think it might change somebody's life. It certainly changed the way that anyone who sees it will come out with a greater understanding of Tourette's, but they will also come out with a kind of sense, and I think this is really important nowadays in the world, that people can be really good. People can be really decent and really admirable in very, very difficult cases. I loved it. I thought it was fabulous. I really loved it.
Oh, that's so good to hear. It was trailed before Christy, and I mean, all of us there sat watching the trailer. After a trailer, you'll nudge the person next to you and go, that looks awful. This one, it was like, let's get tickets. It just had that feeling just from the trailer. So that's great to hear. And
it's like that thing you said about Christy. The subject matter might sound slightly dark, but you come out of it feeling completely, like you just want to embrace your fellow human beings and be good.
Empathy machine. All right, so we're going to be back after the break with what, Mark?
Well, still to come, we have reviews of Plainclothes and Tron Aries. But after the break, we're going to be looking at the box office top 10, and we are also going to hear your interview with...
Oh, yeah, Kathryn Bigelow and Rebecca Ferguson. So don't go anywhere, and if you're a Vanguardista, you don't need to go anywhere because no time will have passed. But yeah, we'll be right back after this. Okay, welcome back. We're going to kick off this section with the top 10. And naturally, at number 14 is Urchin.
Which I really like. This is the directorial debut from Harris Dickinson, and I thought it was very well done. It's a film that on the one hand has its kind of feet on the ground, and it's got a very good sort of tactile feeling of, this is what the life is like for this main character who's intensely unlikable, which is one of the interesting things about the film, is that you empathize with a character who is not easy to like. But it also has these kind of slightly transcendent little details to it. And I think Harris Dickinson's got a very good career in front of him, not just in front of the camera, but also behind it. Yeah,
I'm just a quick aside on that, because I was listening to you talking about his dedication last week.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, actually, I can fully verify and fact check that, because I auditioned for a cameo in Urchin. And normally when you audition these days, any actor will tell you 99% of the time you're taping with another actor on your own at home, sending it in. If you do go in, you're not even meeting the casting director. You'll meet their assistant, their tea making person who just turns on the thing, reads from a script and kicks you out. When I auditioned for Urchin, it was Harrison. It was him. He was there. Literally, he was doing the audition. He was giving me notes. He was acting with me in the room. And I was like, okay, that never happens. Literally never happens. Yeah, so it hasn't happened before and it hasn't happened since.
Yeah, well, I think his dedication is absolutely clear. And like I said, I do think that that's the thing that will see him through because he really means it.
He really does. All right, number actual 10 in the US. Oh, no, 10 here and 7 in the US is Avatar, The Way of Water. Why is this out again?
Because there's another Avatar film coming up and they just want to remind everybody, what Smurfahontis underwater looked like. So, yeah, hey, go refresh your memory of We Are the Na'vi. Ooh.
Yeah, I'll pass. You have to watch this stuff. At number 9, how is this still going? The Bad Guys 2.
11th week.
It's impressive.
And but it's so average. I mean, it's fine. It's not bad, but it's so average. But it's hit that sweet spot. There's a phrase, isn't there? It's better than good. It's mediocre, and that's exactly what Bad Guys 2 is.
It's better than good. It's mediocre. Number 8. 12 in the US is Him.
The problem with Him is that on the one hand, it's a kind of interesting body horror that's nominally a sports movie, but is actually a body horror film. The problem with it is that it reminded me of a bunch of other films, like The Substance, like the works of David Cronenberg, which I thought did this better. I mean, Jordan Peele gets an exec producer credit on it, and the performances are good, but I really thought it wimped out at the end. I thought there was an ending that it should have had that it didn't have. Then again, that's always that thing about don't review the film you wanted it to be. Review the film it was, and the film it was it's all right.
At number 7 is The Long Walk.
We've had so much correspondence about this, and the most interesting thing was from an email a few weeks ago from somebody who said they thought it was absolutely a celebration of friendship. I mean, I thought it was a very, very bleak film, and I thought it was much more about kind of the current state of American politics, which is horrific. But it was proof, once again, that you take from a movie what you bring to it.
And at number 6, Kantara, A Legend, Chapter 1.
Yeah, so this wasn't press screened. This is an Indian epic period mythological drama. If anyone's seen it, please do send us a review.
Number 5, The Conjuring, Last Rites. I mean, everything has been said, hasn't it?
No need to say any more.
No further evidence, Your Honour. Number 4, The Smashing Machine. Dear Mr. Smashing and Mr. Machine, I watched Ben Safdie's The Smashing Machine this past Saturday, and simply put, I felt seen, as the kids would say. The very short of it is I fought professionally in the mid-aughts. No one knows how to say that decade. While I'm not an athlete of any renown, I earned enough to pay for my bachelor's degree, pay off my mum's credit card bills, and pay off another family member's medical debt. Yes, I am American. For my trouble, I lost 4 teeth. God, I had months where my face hurt for days, and had mornings where my shoulder ached so much I couldn't even lift a toothbrush. Now, as a film, The Smashing Machine's plot was undercooked. It suffers from the typical issues that plague biopics, where real life is often mundane and the real facts are publicly available, so dramatic license is or should be limited. But as a depiction of a fighter's life in that time period, I thought it was presented brilliantly. So many scenes felt all too real and familiar. From the emotionally charged domestic arguments to unsuccessful attempts to manage pain, to the great lengths with which Mark went to avoid conflict outside of the ring, I found myself reliving similar moments in my own life. I must admit that I knew all about Mark Kerr before seeing the film. His story is why I avoided prescription painkillers and why I set a deadline for myself to stop fighting by age 24. Wow. A frequent criticism I've heard about the film is that it didn't need to be a film or that it would be better suited as a documentary. But after 18 years since I last stepped into a ring, I finally have an instance in film media where I can show friends and family this is what I felt like. Thank you for all the years of insightful film reviews, Tinkety Tonk, Down with Fascists, and their embarrassing plan to host a fight card on the White House lawn. All the best, Aaron in California.
Well, thank you for that. And I mean, I think that is That's a really brilliant response, certainly from somebody who's actually seen this from the inside. I mean, one of the things for me was watching the film and being shocked at just how violent the ultimate fighting was. I mean, it was literally closer to a pub brawl than organised wrestling. You're quite right about things, but obviously Smashing Machine was a documentary before it was a feature. Right. And I think that both the strength and the weakness is that they haven't taken huge dramatic license. What they have done is tell the story as it was, which I know therefore gives it a certain sense of mundanity, but that is because that is what actually happened. It is... I love the fact that you said, I feel seen, and I think that's terrific, and thank you for that response. And I do think it is worth saying that Dwayne Johnson's performance is eye-opening. I mean, he's unrecognisable at the beginning, but it's a really, really good performance from him. I mean, I can't, I mean, well done for putting yourself a date to get out of the sport, because from what I've seen of it, and I've only ever seen of it, what I've seen in this film, it looks like an absolute brutal endeavour.
Yeah, no, it really does. Just from the little snippet I saw on the show last week, it looked wow. And like you say, Dwayne did not look like Dwayne.
No,
I mean, he really didn't.
No. Really
at number 3, it's aristocrats all being lovely, because they all were, weren't they, Mark? In the old days, they were lovely, especially to poor people. Yeah, Downton Abbey, the grand finale. The email that's been sent in has been titled Downton Abbey, the grand finale, *, which I like.
Okay.
It's from Paul. He says, Dear Mark and Simon, second emergency email of the day, as I felt adding this into the rather more serious previous email would be a bit jarring. In regard to your general disbelief that The Conjuring Last Rites will not be the last, and that Downton Abbey, the grand finale, is less than final, may I suggest you borrow some punctuation from a film that no longer needs it? Marvel's Thunderbolts * was retitled to The New Avengers the day after it was released, and thus spoiled the end of the film, so no longer needs the asterisk. I suggest this is now moved and used somewhere else. For example, The Conjuring Last Rites *, thus implying to the church that you think the name of the movie is almost certainly incorrect. The asterisk can then be moved to another film when the inevitable next Conjuring is announced. Hope that helps. From Paul.
Yeah,
that's
very
great,
good. Very good, yeah. And I was reminded apparently when they were making 4 Weddings and a Funeral, somebody told me that one of the titles that was suggested for it was Toffs on Heat. And this has since been denied by Richard Curtis and everyone involved in the film. But when I was watching Downton Abbey, the grand finale, the only thing I could think was Toffs on Heat.
Well, there you go. It's out there and it's doing well. And if you want to see it, go support it. I mean, it's good to get bums on seats, isn't it, at the end of the day? At number 2, One Battle After Another,
which I really, really liked. And Child 2 went to see it and really, really liked. And then we had a sort of, a thrilling family discussion about which bits we liked and which bits,
Same.
However, the remarkable thing about One Battle After Another is that it has been knocked off the top spot for this week anyway by a film that technically isn't actually a film. Yes. So at the number 1 spot in this week's chart is
Taylor Swift, the official release party of a showgirl.
Which is described thusly: an 89-minute showgirl presentation consisting of the music video for the new single "The Fate of Ophelia," which apparently turns up twice, and then lyrics for the other songs, and then insights into each tune from Taylor Swift, and then there's some behind-the-scenes videos. So it's basically it's released, obviously in conjunction with the album, and it has packed cinemas out and knocked one battle after another off the top spot while still being technically not actually a film.
Wow. I mean, that's impressive. There's an email here from a Swiftie.
Yes, so please go ahead, because we love Swifties.
Insight.
Love Swifties. Go on.
Says, I identify as a Swiftie and have done for 13 years now, on and off. Last year, I had the time of my life at the ARES tour in person and was delighted when Mark gave the concert film a glowing review. Despite this, I have to echo the general sentiment that Taylor's newest album, Life of a Showgirl, is a colossal misstep that only reinforces the image of the vapid, materialistic and out-of-touch billionaire her critics view her as. However, out of curiosity and appreciation for music films in general, I still went to see the official release party of a Showgirl film on the off chance that it had anything of value to offer. The video for lead single The Fate of Ophelia is decent, albeit not one of Taylor's best, and the making of an album commentary segments are interesting enough. However, the bulk of the film's 90-minute runtime is occupied by lyric videos for the remaining 11 songs, all of which were little more than poorly composed TikToks, played on loop, crudely stretched into widescreen through hideous kaleidoscopic effects, while the lyrics unceremoniously appear as if from a teleprompter. The aforementioned Fate of Ophelia video, the only proper music video, and frankly the only element even slightly worth the price of admission, plays in identical forms at both the start and the end of the film, seemingly for no reason other than to pad out the runtime. The whole thing was, unfortunately, every bit of a cynical car crash, maybe he means cash grab, as the album itself. I'd be very keen to know if either of you have seen it, and if you have any remarks on whether or not such a low-effort project deserved wall-to-wall cinema listings for the entire weekend, when hundreds of superior narrative features, documentaries, and visual albums can barely even get in the door. Up with high-quality cinematic representations of popular music, down with hastily cobbled together cash grabs. Oh, there's the cash grab. And warmest regards, Leon.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it. I wasn't offered a preview screening. I've only seen the description of it, so that's it. But you know, that email seems to sum up the general reaction. As I said, in order to find out what it was, I just did a Google search that told me that, but I haven't seen it. They weren't press screening it because I don't think there was any part of it them that thought, you know, this would really help if film critics like this. I think they think that that's not the point.
Yeah, I mean, it's. Listen, the woman is like a one person machine, you know, in terms of like her output, how much she puts out. When she puts something out, it's going to be accompanied by everything, isn't it? Everything is going to be huge, and that's just the way it is. She is Taylor Swift. Yep.
Be interesting to see whether One Battle After Another reclaims the top spot next week. Because I presume that everyone who is going to see this launch party for the album thing has gone now. And that next week, normal service will be resumed.
And how often does that happen, that you hit the top spot, get knocked off, and then come back to it?
Well, yeah, it's not unheard of. No. It's not. Generally, what happens is things hit the top spot and then go down. But it's not unheard of somebody to go to number one, come off, and then come back on again. It's the same in the pop charts. I mean, the Beatles did it all the time. But yes, no, it is entirely possible. And I suspect that next week the Taylor Swift film will be way, way down because everybody went to see it. I don't even know if it's still around. I mean, maybe, presume it probably is. But as I said, it has happened slightly outside of the film world. Yeah, so it's a pop fans thing that's happening in cinemas as opposed to a movie, which was different to the film of the ARES tour thing, which that was a slightly different thing because that was actually more of a music film. Yeah. Anyway, there we go.
Gosh. Well, we will be back with a bit of Tron Aries, won't we, Mark? And what else are we looking at after the break?
Plainclothes, which is a really interesting independent feature, and your fantastic interview with
Kathryn Bigelow and Rebecca Ferguson. So keep it locked right here. Of course, you don't need to do anything if you're a Vanguardista. Otherwise, we'll see you after this. This week's guests are Kathryn Bigelow and Rebecca Ferguson. Ferguson, you'll know from Mission Impossible, Dune, Silo, and loads more. She stars in Bigelow's new nuclear thriller, A House of Dynamite. Now, Kathryn Bigelow was the first woman to win an Oscar for Best Director, one of only 3. That gets said about her all the time. So how about this for something new? Did you know she used to flip apartments alongside world-renowned composer Philip Glass for a bit of cash on the side? Yeah, like these are the things that artists have to go through on the come up. And what I love about this, she wasn't just like doing the admin. She wasn't just like, oh, I'll sort out the paperwork. She was sanding the floors. She was prepping the wood, and Glass was doing the plumbing. Incredible. Wow. And I'd love to know more about that. We don't get into it in this interview. You'll hear what we get into with Rebecca and Kathryn after this clip.
Approximately 3 minutes ago, we detected an ICBM over the Pacific. Current flight trajectory is consistent with impact somewhere in the continental United States.
Have we seen that country before? No.
Is this real?
Stratcom is asking for launch instructions right now. I'm gonna need you to breathe.
We are talking about hitting a bullet with a bullet.
So it's a f***ing coin toss? That's what $50 billion buys us?
Get in the car and just start driving.
If we do not take steps to neutralize our enemies now, we will lose our window to do so.
If we get this wrong, none of us are going to be alive tomorrow.
And that was a clip from House of Dynamite, and I am incredibly excited to be joined here by its director, Kathryn Bigelow, and one of its ensemble cast, star, Rebecca Ferguson. Guys, how are we doing?
Good. Thank
All
you.
right.
Good.
All right. This is incredibly exciting for me. I just watched Zero Dark 30 because I was listening to a podcast that it was like 4 or 5 parts, and it was about the hunt for Bin Laden. And throughout they kept saying, go and watch Zero Dark 30 because they actually get a lot of stuff right in the film. So I'd watched it again after that, and then I was asked to come and see this. I was like, oh, wow, okay, next level.
Those are 2 heavy films to go back to back.
Yeah, but no, incredible. I guess the first thing I want to know is what was the seed, what was the kernel, what was the sort of jump-off point for this project, for you, Kathryn?
For me, it was a kind of very simple what-if question. What would happen if a nuclear ICBM was launched toward North America? What would ensue? And I was fortunate enough to be speaking to this extraordinary journalist / screenwriter, Noah Offenheim, who's an expert in this field. And he said, well, we go here, and this happens, and this happens. And I'm like, wait a minute, wait, let's write this down.
Slow down.
Slow down. And that's really how it began. I thought it would be worth knowing. I mean, I grew up in a time when I had to hide under my desk in case of a nuclear explosion, which of course is ludicrous, but nonetheless I did. And then between then and now, several decades have passed, and I think it's really the idea of being surrounded by 12,000 plus nuclear weapons has kind of been normalized. Nobody speaks about it. And it's very quiet. And so my feeling was to drill down on this and perhaps maybe start a conversation if at all possible.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that progression. It's been 8 years since your last film, but I think about those 2 films, The Hurt Locker, the methodology within that of, that insurgency that you show us, and then that journey towards finding Bin Laden in Zero Dark 30. You think digging deeper into decision-making, what certain decisions were taken in the heat of the moment. This feels like this is all about the decision-making.
All about that.
Investigative.
Yeah. And, I'm really, really conscious because I didn't do any research before I watched this film. The only thing I knew was your name and the name of the film, and that's it. I thought I'd do all the research afterwards. Because I like watching movies that way. But this particular movie, I really don't want to give any spoilers away, but structurally, it's very different. And did that come from Noah? Was that a joint thing?
Well, I wanted to do the movie in real time, and that launch from origin to impact would be about 18 or 19 minutes. So if you want to do the movie in real time, you've got 18 minutes to work with. And then I thought what would be interesting is to start with the people in missile defense that identify the launch at first, and then they begin to move up the chain of command with that information. And then you arrive at Rebecca and the White House Situation Room, which she handles so magnificently, and then you move into Strategic Command, which is basically the nuclear umbrella for America, and then you end up with the president, who is the sole authority on how to respond to this ICBM, and he only has a matter of minutes. So that's how it was broken into thirds.
That was a huge reveal for me as well, because I hadn't done any research, and you don't see the president for a long period of the film. So when it was who it was, and I won't say who it was, I was like, there he is. Wondered who it might be. So Rebecca, let's dig down into your character as well, and just thinking about, again, like decision making in a situation like that. From an actor's point of view, how did you even begin to prepare yourself, or, within the performance moments as well, relay that level of stress and panic? did you bring any of yourself into that situation? Because I'm terrified of this happening. Like,
I mean, it is a terrifying situation, and that's acted, but it's also the realism of the character. And I think what I loved about the script and the role is, it's not a caricature of something. It's not an animated character. It's a real person. And the fact that Noah starts this film off in her home environment kind of gives me a little bit of an easier route for I think audiences to recognize themselves in, because it's a home environment. It's a mum with a sick child and a father and a situation, and then she has to go to work, which they do every day, you know?
Yeah.
It's just that chaos happens. But then we had Larry Pfeiffer, who is the character who Jason Clarke plays in real life.
Right.
So Kathryn and Greg, and they offered us the top people. The people who we played were on set.
So you were able to interact with them during?
On a daily basis.
Every day.
Day. So it was like making a film with Kathryn. It was like, here's a script, here's a plethora of information, go and do the research and rock up and do the job. And then we play.
Right. Talk to me about the playing. What's it like playing with Kathryn Bigelow?
Oh, no. So I have a bucket. No. It's ridiculously collaborative, and we've said this so many times, but it is such a relief for an actor to not feel micromanaged. And it's not to criticize anyone else I've ever worked with. I'm really fortunate with the people. But a lot of people have an idea and a vision and an image in their head. And sometimes you feel locked with marks on the floor or the camera angles, or you have the over the shoulder, the half shot, the whole shot. And this was not it. You had no marks. The cameras were all over the room, whether it was put on your little, on your computer, because everything was shot in real time.
Right.
So they had the sets built.
They were live.
They were
completely
live. So the feeds happened authentically at the moment. With
So
the
that kind of sort of Zoom call thing.
That was simultaneous.
Simultaneous filming.
Those actors.
So where we see Jared HAIRIES, he's
there.
being shot in the
Yes.
scene that we're going to see later.
Yes.
Whilst he's
Yeah.
Yes.
that's
They're in the
I love
Stratcom.
that.
It's
Stressful.
It was very stressful.
It's like a play.
Like
a play, yeah.
but like three-dimensional chess.
Yeah.
You were playing this game and that game. It was.
And it just becomes real. And the set designer, Jeremy is incredible, because I hadn't been to the Situation Room, but Larry has worked there.
Sure.
So my reaction came from him when I saw Larry walk onto set. And it was just the way the desks were, the chairs. He said, I'm literally in the room. This is insane.
Wow.
And I could live it through him. So it became very real. And then it was about holding the story. It's all there.
And you mentioned that thing about family, and I really felt that watching the film. And I think Volker's score, Volker Bertelmann's score helps this, because there's these sweeping moments of orchestral strings and stuff like that. It feels huge, and then there's these tiny silent moments, and I felt like that sort of reflected how I felt about the movie. There's this huge macro thing happening, but then there's all the micro things. The kids at the basketball court,
yeah.
Your character's family.
It's the layering, isn't it?
Yeah. And was that a conscious thing from the start, Kathryn, to have, like that you see little news clips throughout, like, oh, the economy, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, that means nothing. That means nothing.
Nothing, right. I think, it's a juxtaposition between the macro and the micro, I suppose. But keeping humanity very much present, even in a situation which is very procedural, because that's what they have to follow, procedure. But yet humanity is almost way more important than procedure, because that's what's at stake. And I wanted to remind the audience is that's what you will lose in a situation with a nuclear event. And so I think a conversation about reducing the nuclear stockpile is in order.
And that's what it felt like to me, like a conversation, because the structure that you created to go back and go back again, it forced me to think less about, the disaster, the big disaster. Think about this situation that we're in, like meditate on it. No, go back, think about it again. Go back, think about it again.
Yeah.
I found that incredibly powerful.
Oh, that's wonderful, wonderful.
Sedimenting the thought. Yeah.
Are there any heroes in this film, do you think, Rebecca? Is your character one of them, if there are?
No, I don't know. I think once you said there are no goodies and baddies, basically the situation, the fact that you decided to make it unknown, I think we as humans love to find something to blame
And
to
point a
finger at. And I think whether it's goodies or baddies, I think what's fascinating, again, we've discussed, is the people in the Situation Room in Stratcom are so trained. They are good at their work. They are heroes at their work, but they don't make the decision. That's the president, who sadly enough isn't as briefed as the other people. But at all.
I mean, he's calling his wife, who's on safari, saying, "What do I do?"
What do I do? Well,
which is probably what I would do.
We spoke to a gentleman who was former chief of staff at the Pentagon, and said, "So, how often do you practice this protocol? I mean, if this were to happen, what is the procedure?" And he said, "Well, we almost never practice it because they're too busy with whatever else, hostage negotiation or 10,000 other things." Yet when we went to Stratcom, how often do you practice? 400 times a year. So it's more than twice a day.
Whoa.
So they're totally dialed in, but the president, who ultimately has to make the decision
Within minutes
is not. So it's a paradox that, I mean, certainly I found kind of terrifying.
I mean, and that's why it's so hard to discuss heroes, because it's a situation where we're discussing nuclear warheads.
Right.
Are there heroes in a decision when it comes to nukes? Should there be heroes? Should we have the amount of warheads we have? Should this be a topic where someone's a hero? I don't. It's such a juxtaposition, isn't it?
It really is. I don't even think this is a question, but I mean, you might not relate to this, Rebecca, because you grew up in Sweden. I'm not sure if it made it there, but when I was a kid in the 80s, I was obsessed with these children's books by a guy called Raymond Briggs, and my dad bought me all of them. And one of them turned out to be an adult picture book called When the Wind Blows. And it was about an elderly couple in rural England, very lovely, optimistic couple who you slowly begin to realize there is a nuclear attack coming to the UK. And you see this all reflected through the eyes of an elderly couple, no children, in their rural house.
Oh, me too.
It is one of the most profound things I've ever read. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but go and get that book and tell me...
How the Wind Blows.
When the Wind Blows.
When the Wind Blows.
And when I was watching A House of Dynamite, I thought, oh my God, this is the prequel to When the Wind Blows.
Oh my God, read this. We have to, immediately.
Please do. What's next for you guys?
The prequel, When the Wind Blows.
After you've read When the Wind Blows, Kathryn, I mean, it's 8 years since your last film. Are we going to have to wait that long?
It's hard to find. Well, I was developing several things, but this was the one that made the most sense, and also I felt like it was timely and topical and urgent, and I wanted.
It has a ripple effect.
Hopefully has a ripple effect, and have it be perceived as a warning.
Inclination is flattening.
Yeah.
And Rebecca, where do we see you next?
Oh, she's
always busy.
I'm all over the place.
She's a legend.
No, I'm doing other things.
She's talking it down there.
But no, I'm not. But you know what? And it's promoting other things. But I think what's amazing is sticking to, when you do a film like this, we can do press and we move on. But I feel that I'm constantly in this environment, in my own mind. Whatever I'm doing, it's not minute or tiny in comparison, but this one has struck something in me where I feel like the choices moving forward become bigger.
Well, that makes me excited for your future.
Me
for
too.
sure. And for me as a watcher. Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate your time.
Lovely interview.
Well, isn't that nice? You enjoy that, Mark?
Yeah. Yet another interview that ends with the interview equivalent of Love the Show, Steve, which is our interviewer being told how very much they enjoy being interviewed. I mean, it just makes me feel Makes me feel left out. Also, I love the fact that you brought up When the Wind Blows, and they hadn't heard of it. Because, I mean, that was, I don't think I've come across anybody who hasn't read When the Wind Blows. It was such a big deal when it came out.
Was
I mean,
huge.
And it was funny because watching the film, we reviewed it last week, as you said, it was the first film that's made me worried about nuclear war in a very long time, because we'd all kind of got into the habit of thinking, well, the mutually assured destruction thing will just stop that ever happening.
It'll be fine.
But what that film does is it gives you that palm sweating feeling of, no, it might happen because of all this kind of, 18 minutes for all this stuff to be sorted out. Also, it doesn't help that, as I said at the time, when you were watching the movie, that's a movie in which, and this is not a spoiler anymore because everybody now knows this, in which Idris Elba is the president and Pete Hegseth doesn't exist. And we now live in a world in which neither of those two things are true, which is infinitely more alarming.
Mark, what else is new and fresh and shiny and maybe lovely?
Okay, so Plainclothes, which is an independent American feature from American writer-director Carmen Emmy, premiered at Sundance early this year, won the Sundance Special Jury Award for Ensemble Cast. So set in Syracuse, where Carmen Emmy grew up, follows two characters, both of whom, incidentally, are played by British actors. So yet again, another example of, we're going to do this properly, let's get the Brits in. So Tom Blyth is Lucas, who we meet working as an undercover cop in the 90s. He's involved in a sting operation to entrap gay men, filming them apparently engaged in illicit activity in a public restroom. Here is a clip.
We have a rule on this detail. No words and no entering the stall.
This guy I just directed with my eyes.
Police me! What did I do? Against the law! Against the law! Under arrest.
Hey, Ma.
You gotta introduce somebody new to my nephew here.
Okay, so what's your type? Who are you?
I don't really have a type.
So the film's got this kind of the trappings of being a police procedural, and it's got a somewhat noirish poster that kind of implies that undercover intrigue, something more. The something more is that in the course of this work, our central character encounters Andrew, who's played by Russel Tovey, who I interviewed on stage a few days ago, whom Lucas sets out originally to entrap, but with whom he develops an unexpected bond. And the two end up having a relationship, albeit at arm's length. And Lucas starts to discover or uncover his own sexuality, which is a trait that you can trace back to movies, very different movies, like, for example, William Friedkin's Cruising, but also to want something from Andrew that Andrew can't give him. And the story is told in this, it's told very, very well, but in this non-linear fashion. So it moves back and forth between different time periods, which are flagged up by different filming styles. And that kind of enhances the sense of mystery. The kind of police procedural element feeds into that, into the storytelling. So you get tension and intrigue and reveals. But also at the heart of it, it is a romance. And I read an interview with the writer-director who said, and I love this quote, he said, I read somewhere that at a certain age, maybe 12 to 13-year-old, boys are taught that a punch is better than a hug. That sentiment stuck with me and really helped me form the question I set out to ask in this film. What happens when you police your feelings? And I love that phrase, policing your feelings. I love the fact that what the film is doing is like blending the idea of the emotional and the procedural, both in terms of the story and also in terms of the filmmaking style. I was talking to Russel Tovey about it in the same show in which I burst into tears whilst interviewing Maxine Peake. And he pointed out that, although this sting operation is set in the 90s, which is in the past and everything, that actually the stuff that the film is dealing with, which is to do with homophobia and prejudice and twisted ideas of masculinity, are probably more relevant now than they ever were. And again, this is the second time, or actually third if we're talking about Christy, talking about a film in which what the film is making you do is empathize with these characters whose situations you may not know personally, but who you come to understand because the way the way the filmmaker tells their story makes you see the world through their eyes. And so on the one hand, it is a specific story about this undercover cop trying to entrap gay men, but it is very universal in that what it's to do with is that feeling that you use, what happens when you police your feelings. And I like the fact that that has then bled into, okay, so it is therefore a police procedural with this kind of historical backdrop to it. Anyway, once again, independent, low-budget cinema made by people who really care turns out to be the most interesting thing on release.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm yet to watch that one, but it is on my list. Definitely going to check it out. And I do have a huge soft spot for Russell. I just think he's always great.
He's fab,
He brings
He's
so
fab.
much heart to everything. And then I suppose when you meet him, it makes a lot of sense why that is. Same with Maxine, right?
The thing I hadn't clocked with Russell Tovey was he's really built. He came onto the stage and he had this either that or but he had this kind of tight jumper on. He was like, wow. You are really, I felt all kind of fragile and old.
Yeah, that's that thing where you go too far with the handshake. You do the handshake and then you do like the sort of friendly pat on the upper arm, and you're like, "Ooh, wow, okay, we have very different lifestyles." Gym pub, okay. All right. Well, we're going to get into the ads in a minute, Mark. But you're going to be overjoyed to know that once again, it's time to step with wild abandon into our laughter lift. Anyway, hey, Mark. Just before we started recording this morning, I was sitting in my studio drinking coffee in my slippers, contemplating what a great show this was going to be, when I thought to myself, I really need to wash some mugs.
Is that it?
That's it, right?
Oh, I've got it.
Yeah,
Do
go,
it again.
go.
Simon Paul has just explained it in the talk.
Right,
Read the joke again.
Oh, it's drinking coffee in my slippers.
So he's drinking off in my slippers. It's a version of I shot an elephant in my pyjamas. What he was doing in my pyjamas, I'll
the
never
convolution
know.
of
Simon
the setup
Paul,
hid that. Yeah,
that is a new low. That's a new low. Even established comedian Ben couldn't make that fly.
Yeah, I'm going to make up a joke to try and replace that. How about this? I was watching The Smashing Machine with the good state school primary teacher, her indoors, the other night. And as soon as it was over, I very intelligently reviewed it and then wrestled her to the ground. "What the hell are you doing?" she shouted. "I'm in Mark Kermode." Hey?
There we go.
Just made that
There
up.
we go.
Okay, let's get back to Simon's jokes. I was up very early, Mark, because there was a dawn raid. Can you believe it? The policeman said, "Doc Brown, I'm arresting you for downloading the entire Wikipedia." I said, "Wait, I can explain everything." Which is it's not bad.
Okay, that's better. It's better.
Which reminds me of the time when I went to Disneyland and I was a victim of a very unlikely crime. This is outrageous. Can you believe I got mugged by 6 of the 7 dwarfs? Not happy. Quite like that joke.
And there we are.
Yeah.
And there we are.
So that's your laughter lift this week. I'm sure it will improve massively next week. But
it won't.
It won't. This is what the fast forward button is for on your podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah.
All right. What have we got after when we come back, though, Mark? Have we got anything in the last section of interest?
Hairy Tron.
There we go. That would be funnier than the laughter lift for sure. Bit of Hairy Tron. So join us for that after this. Welcome back. Now, we've been asking you guys to let us know what is going on in your area, film-wise, events, all of that good stuff. And as always, you brilliant people have responded phenomenally. So we got a couple of what's-ons this week. First off...
Hello, Mark and Simon, and hello to Jason Isaacs. It's John here from the Sherborne International Film Festival in Dorset, running at the Powell Theatre from October the 16th to the 19th. We're screening brilliant films like Parasite, Cinema Paradiso and Pele, Birth of a Legend, all to raise funds for the Halo Trust who clear landmines. Tickets are available at shiff.uk, that's shiff.uk, or from Winston's Bookshops in Sherborne.
And also, we have one from Peter in Romford.
Hello, Simon and Mark. It's Peter Blunden here. I want to tell the listeners all about the amazing Lumiere Cinema in Romford, a cooperative, not-for-profit independent cinema that's been open since April. This month, we're showing the 100 greatest horror films of all time, all day, every day. We also host community art classes, baby massage, and soon, puppy yoga. Check out our story and listings at lumiereromford.com.
That is quite the range, Mark. 100 horror films.
That really is.
And baby massage. Work those into your life.
And puppy yoga.
Puppy yoga, I'm guessing, is yoga for the older gentleman, perhaps? I'm not sure. Now, I watched this show on YouTube last week, as I was saying earlier. Did you and Simon see that one of the Watsons was read by a man dressed as Ludo from Labyrinth? Did you see that, or did you just hear it?
Only subsequently.
That makes sense.
Why
I was like,
so
why are they not
confused.
reacting to a man stood in a Ludo suit?
No, we just heard the audio and we were wondering why he was using that voice. And then we got sent the video, which was, that explains a lot. Context is everything.
It was one of the weirdest bits of YouTube footage that I'd seen for a while. Just you two really stone-facedly looking at a man dressed up as a Muppet, essentially. Anyway, speaking of Muppets, let's get into our last review of Take One. Mark, take it away.
Tron Aries, the third in the Tron series, following 1982's Tron, 2010's Tron Legacy. The first film, which you were talking about earlier on, written and directed by Steven Lisberger. Jeff Bridges is Kevin Flynn, computer programmer, video game designer, transported inside the world of software and, forced to take part in games. Early example of extensive CG and score by Wendy Carlos, who actually had a very rough ride with the project. Then Tron Legacy, many years later, Joseph Kosinski, he of Top Gun, Maverick and F1. Son gets a message from the father, transported into the grid, music by Daft Punk. Now, that film cost 170 million, took 400. It's okay. I mean, it's not a brilliant return, but the general feeling was that perhaps the nostalgia and love for Tron had been overstressed. Now we have this, however, which is the next Tron movie, which is written by Jesse Wiguto. I presume that's how you pronounce it. It's directed by Joachim Röning, Norwegian director of Maleficent, Young Woman in the Sea, co-director of Kon-Tiki, which was very good, and Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, a.k.a. Salazar's Revenge, which is very, very, very bad. That was a belated sequel that no one was asking for, which brings us rather brilliantly to Tron Aries. Score, incidentally, by Nine Inch Nails, with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross also getting exec producer credits alongside Kosinski. Also producing Tron Aries is creative genius and part-time messiah, Jared. Now, I think he's Leto, because there's a whole thing on Conan O'Brien doing a routine about him being Leto, not Leto. But I have now checked so many interviews in which his name is Leto or Leto, and he agrees with all of it. So frankly, I don't care anymore. Anyway, he plays the titular Ares, a computer-generated super villain hero made inside the virtual world, now brought into the real world via a piece of kind of 3D laser printing cooked up by the slimy tech bro, Julian Dillinger. Here is a clip.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to meet ARES. This is the most sophisticated security program ever written. You want to shake his hand? Go ahead. He doesn't bite. ARES has billions of lines of code unique to him. Is it alive? That depends on your definition, Stuart. Because unlike you, he's biblically strong, lightning fast, and supremely intelligent. He is fully proprietary and 100% expendable. ARES is the ultimate soldier. He needs no food, no water, sheds no blood. And if by some miracle he is struck down on the battlefield, I will simply make you another.
Were they describing ARES there or Jared? I couldn't work it out from the
exactly
details.
I mean, what possibly would have meant the producer of the film to star as a character who is, quote, physically strong, lightning fast, and supremely intelligent. Anyway, so incidentally, the way in which, if you weren't watching that, the way in which Jared Leto plays that super intelligence is by wearing this really supercilious smile all the way through the film that I just wanted to punch from the first moment I saw it. Anyway, he's also, in the real world, unstable. What a shock. But self-destructs after 29 minutes because they haven't figured out a way of getting these things into the real world and them lasting longer than half an hour. However, the CEO of Encom is searching for a permanence code which has been hidden by Flynn in the grid, and Greta Lee is on the trail of it And if it's found, it'll solve the problem. So she spends some time being chased around the real world by Jodie Turner-Smith's Athena, sidekick of Ares, and sometime in the cyber world, which, if you remember, was the whole point of Tron in the first place, which was, we're in the cyber world. But no, this basically abandons that in favor of watching very big machines in the real world knocking down very big buildings in the real world. So the film it's visually flashy, it's very noisy, it is utterly empty, and it is one of the most boring experiences I have had in a very, very long time. The main problems are these. For all the flashbang visuals, and there's a lot of flashing and a lot of banging, I didn't care about anyone or anything at any point. In the first film, you had this kind of setup, which is the guy who's a gamer is sort of, done dirty on by this corporation, and then he's sent into this machine, and he ends up having to play these games, that was a thing. And you were talking about driving around on your bikes with a torch, because we'd all seen Tron and we'd never been inside the computer world. In this, Jared Leto is basically a computer program discovering human emotions in a manner which is A, not convincing, and more importantly, not in the slightest bit interesting, because the whole way he describes those human emotions is to have this supercilious, smug look on his face, like, I'm learning about human emotions, but I'm also physically strong and super intelligent. So the whole thing is bolted together like bits from other movies that have happened since Tron, and then, older texts that have been redone so much better. So you get the creator creation riff from Frankenstein. You get the synthetic human thing from Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049, which was in. You get the Wizard of Oz hiding at the center of the game thing, which is really just another riff on that Ready Player One thing. You get the ultimate fighting machine and the rise of the robots from Terminator. You get the smashy, crashy machines hitting buildings from Transformers. You get the real world, virtual world riff from The Matrix. And all of those movies are, frankly, more interesting than this. And worst of all the time I was watching it, I was thinking, I really loved Hackers. Hackers was a great film, and Hackers was massively sort of overlooked at the time. And now Hackers looks like a masterpiece. All those movies are more interesting. And watching this was so boring that I spent a large portion of the time just making up a series of terrible puns about the films that this is ripped off of. Do you want to hear what I came up with? I mean, this is what I was doing to occupy myself whilst all this stuff was happening. Wow. So, J. Arthur Rankenstein.
Nice.
Blade Bummer. Blade Runner 2049. The Wizard of Snores. Transborners. Ready Player Dumb. The Fake Tricks. And my favourite, Cackers. And that level of humour is how much this film had made me more stupid whilst watching it. I mean, literally whilst watching it, it was like my brain was atrophying inside my head because it was so immensely loud and stupid. And at the centre of it all is Jared Leto, I don't care, who looks like Electro Jesus from the outset, represents being electronic by not blinking, which is basically what Haley Joel Osment did in AI. And then there's a scene in the middle of it, which is meant to be endearing, in which the character that Jared Leto, I don't care, plays, describes why he loves Depeche Mode. And whether deliberately or accidentally, it seems to be a riff on that scene from American Psycho, in which Patrick Bateman explains why he loves Huey Lewis and the News to Jared Leto, who he then kills with an axe. And the difference with this is, firstly, the scene of explaining why he loves Depeche Mode is a lot less funny than the scene when Patrick Bateman explains why he loves Huey Lewis in the News. And the second thing is, it doesn't end with Jared Leto's character getting hit with an axe, which is a problem because it would have made Tron Aries infinitely more entertaining. Instead, we have to sit and watch this silly-haired, unblinking demigod nitwit turn into this kind of sympathetic human prophet. And there is a scene at the end of the film which, if it doesn't actually trigger your vomit response, then something is wrong with you. Best moment in the film, Gillian Anderson slaps somebody, which was quite funny. The worst thing is that it takes people like Greta Lee and Jodie Turner-Smith, who I know you're a huge fan of as well, gives them really not much to do. I mean, look, they do it a lot better than anybody else. But the thing is that being right at the top of a pile of poo still leaves you at the top of a pile of poo. So in terms of, IP recognition possibilities, the amount of money spent, the amount of soundtrack stuff going on that ought to be interesting, right? 9 Inch Nails, that ought to be an interesting thing. You know, all that. I think this is not only the worst film of the week, but I would think a very strong contender for worst film of the year. It's absolutely awful. It'll be number 1 next week.
I mean, could have been worse. He could have been Italian, Jared Leto, couldn't he?
At least that was funny. At least him being Italian was funny.
Wow, I mean, that sounds like a huge honking pile of birdsong.
I've used this phrase before, but it was like being shouted to sleep. It was so noisy and so uninteresting. Yeah.
And that's the end of take 1. Thank you for joining us. This has been a Sony Music Entertainment production. This week's team was Jen, Eric, Josh, and Heather. The producer was Jem. Redactor was Simon Paul. And if you're not following the pod already, come on now. Please do so wherever you get your podcasts. And you can watch every episode now and see our lovely backdrops on our lovely YouTube channel. Don't forget the Xmas show coming up on the 7th of December. Go to fane.co.uk/Kermode-Mayo. All right. Get your tickets. Mark, what's your film of the week?
My film of the week, I swear, is I Swear.
Thank goodness for that. Take 2 has dropped simultaneously to this one, and we'll see you back here next week.